Who knows what Jay-Z, J.K. Rowling, Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey all have in common? Okay, I will tell you then. They have all overcome failure in one shape or form to go on to gain success in their respective careers. Welcome to My Perfect Failure. Join us as we delve into the world of our perfect failures. We will interview, explore, and discuss how our perfect failures can lead us to success. Join us and tune in.
Welcome everybody to another episode of My Perfect Failure. Today we have another amazing guest for you, so I'm super excited. So my guest today is the creator of 5-Step to Alignment, a program helping Starseeds overcome fear, stagnation, and lack of direction on their soul's journey to become vibrationally aligned with their soul's mission and purpose. She perceives the psychological patterns and behavior of an individual and receives channeled information about the source from which it stems, as well as how to shift it. So, a very, very, very warm welcome to My Perfect Failure, Haley Carbajal. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm delighted to have you as a guest on My Perfect Failure. We connected and I kind of read your, I guess, your story. I don't know it intimately, but the shell of it that I got, I thought, wow, that you're a perfect guest for My Perfect Failure in terms of what you're doing now, where you're supporting people globally with lots of really cool and really interesting techniques, but also your journey. So your journey you've navigated. I guess we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, so thank you for being here today, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Me too.
I think invariably a good place to start is invariably at the beginning. And I guess I've alluded to it a second ago that you essentially you support people. You've got 5-step program, and for people listening, the title of this episode is Transform Your Life with Human Consciousness. So I'm not too clear up on that, so we'll get into that in a second. But what would be lovely initially is to capture a bit of who Haley is, background, the journey. So I'll give the floor to you, and I can interject.
Yeah. Well, where would you like me to start?
Well, I guess where would be a lovely place to start is kind of like what got you into your journey where you're actually supporting people today. We Before we hit the record button, what I got from sort of the initial research into you that I don't know whether this is right. There's a bit of an assumption here, but I what you're doing today, where you're supporting people, has that come from a place of struggle where you've actually landed on this spot where you've gone through a journey, different things have happened, and then you realize actually from this process, I've actually got a gift here or I've got a purpose here, and I actually want to support people. So, what would be wonderful is to get an insight into what was the struggle that you experienced that led you to where you are today.
Yeah. So if we're talking about, because it's almost like your entire life is handcrafting you to be the person that you are today,
Yeah.
tomorrow, right? But specifically in my purpose and helping people, because I have a firm belief that each one of us has a unique set of gifts, skills, and abilities that are meant to be shared with the world. We're not meant to be working 9 to 5s. We're not meant to be working for corporations. We're actually meant to be pursuing something that makes us happy, and also humanity benefits because
Mm.
we are helping them, and by helping them, we're helping us, and vice versa, right? And so I always knew that I had a special gift in understanding of human consciousness and the decision making and why we do what we do and how what we do and what we think communicates with the universe and how that reflects in our reality, right? And so I think the purpose chose me And then through the pursuit of my purpose is when I went through those challenges, is when I went through those struggles,
Okay.
when I went through that immense, almost obscene amount of failure, right? But it's all for the benefit. It's all for the better because I mean, for so many reasons, but truly because I can sit here as an authentic human being telling you that you can overcome anything in your life and anything is possible. And I can talk so clearly and concisely about the benefits of challenges and really how to get through them with the most amount of empowerment and enlightenment and with the least amount of suffering and confusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So did you have to, so actually let's go back to this question. So you got to a point where you felt that you had unique gifts, which you do
Mm-hmm.
have.
Mm-hmm.
And when was that, did you have to kind of unravel that and work out what it was and then move forward with it? And I guess also it's kind of tricky when we know that we've got unique gifts and we want to explore them and we've got, our family, we've got our friends who in the main, not just our family and friends, but our wider community, we all have got a straight line where we go school, college, uni, work. That's it. And anybody that kind of talks about doing something which is slightly removed from that, you get
Yeah.
those raised eyebrows.
Yeah. So the first thing I would want everybody to know is that when you get those raised eyebrows, it has nothing to do with you or your potential or what you're capable of. What's going on is number one, they're trying to protect you because they care about you. And so they can only conceive what's possible through the lens of their own reality, which is filtered through their own beliefs and filtered through their own life experiences. And so, whatever they project on you, like, oh, that's going to be hard, are you sure you can make it? Maybe it's just better to get a 9 to 5. That has what's worked for them. And so they unconsciously believe that's what's going to work for you
Mm,
too. But I saw this meme. This is not mine, but I saw this meme that said something to the effect of the receiving of your dream or the download of your dream was not a press conference. It wasn't a conference call, right? Your dream was put on your heart. And so it's not meant for everybody else to see. It's not meant for everybody else to
yeah,
understand. It was meant for you to see and do and have a connection with.
yeah. So I love that, by the way. So I'm just thinking about your process and in terms of you getting this clarity and moving forward. So to get to that point where you had that clarity, where you understood that it's not everybody else's place to see my dream. It's not my place to see their dreams because it's all relative to us. How did you get to that point where seemingly to me, you're able to process quite a lot of this independently?
Mm. Well, I have a lot to give to my partner, Lou. He has been an absolutely amazing, essential support in what I'm doing. I know that, not like maybe he's the only one, except now because I've created a tribe. But before I created my tribe with my business, there was only one person that believed in me, and that was him. And that belief that he had in me was enough to sustain me. So my siblings didn't believe in what I was doing. My parents didn't believe in what I was doing. My friends didn't believe what I was doing. They probably still think I'm a little bit woo woo and crazy. But the truth is that I knew that it came to a choice, and we all are met with this choice. We can choose to distort and dilute ourselves for the sake of being accepted by people that we're familiar with, or we can choose our soul's purpose, our higher calling, and our passions. And eventually we will find the people that are in alignment with that. They will come to you.
Yeah.
It's just, are you brave enough to let go? And it doesn't mean that you have to cut people off. It doesn't mean that you can't still connect with them. It's just, you really do have to protect your dream. Really do have to protect your vision, and it's not meant for everybody else to see or hear.
Yeah.
I think it was Napoleon Hill that said something to the effect of, he keeps the beginning of his dreams. I'm going to butcher this quote. I'm going to butcher it. I know it, but I understand the concept.
Yeah.
That in the beginning, when he's just starting a dream, it's only a conversation between him and God. Like, he didn't even share it with his wife, because in those beginning stages, your dream is the most fragile. And it's normal
Yeah.
for us to go out there seeking external validation that you're making the right decision. But that's where dreams die, is looking for that validation, looking for somebody to be like, you can do it. Because more often than not, you're not going to find that. So it really is just a matter of placing the bets on yourself, knowing that everything you've ever overcome up until this point, you've already done it, and that you can put faith in yourself and your ability to see things through and be motivated. And that when you're not motivated, you can find and muster up the discipline, because you're working towards something that is bigger than you. You're working towards something that is inspiring. And that, I believe, is when you truly feel alive, even amidst failure.
Yeah. No, I can empathize with that. This podcast, when I decided I wanted to do this podcast, I purposely wasn't that vocal about it, because I had no background in podcasting. The subject was a bit of a taboo subject, or a stigma subject in the main. Lots of people don't really go around promoting failures or their failures and so forth. But I realized that most people, that not noted people, but there's far more people that have achieved things than noted people. But I guess it's easier to think about noted people. But if you think about famous entrepreneurs, famous actors, or athletes, these people, I think, follow your doctrine, where they have this faith even when the road isn't clear. They've got a purpose, a vision. The road's not clear. They're probably there, similar to your position. Family and friends probably think they're a little bit crazy, because they've just got this real drive for something that they simply cannot see. Why is he or she spending all their time on this when they could be doing something that is far more straightforward, far more logical, definitely less problematic and likely to fail. But they go through setbacks and failures. But they're almost, and I've heard some of your content where I think you describe in similar ways, they're opportunities, failures, opportunities to grow, to learn and expand. And was that something that you had to teach yourself, or did the faith just do that for you?
It was the hard knocks. It was the hard lessons. Briefly, just so your audience has context, I did 208 consultation calls for the business that I currently have now, which is successful. But I did 208-hour-long consultation calls and got rejected all 208 times. And that was over the course of probably just under a year. And then I got my first yes. And then even after that, I was like, whoa, I crossed the threshold. It's done, right? I still went months, at least several, up to 7 months, with still rejection after rejection after rejection. And so in order to know, I believe it doesn't always have to be this way, but I believe that in order to know how to do something right, you must learn how to do it wrong
Yeah.
first, right? So I went through the self-pity, I went through the why me's, I went through why is the universe punishing me? Will it ever happen? Should I give up? All of that. All of that. I really believe that when we choose our purpose and our higher calling first, all of our limitations that are would hold us back get put under a microscope. And it is our responsibility to overcome those limiting beliefs, to overcome those maybe not so healthy or disempowering behaviors. And so I did have mentors at the time, which definitely helped. I'm a firm believer in having a mentor, firm believer. So that did help, having a mentor give context for what I was going through. But ultimately, it was up to me because a mentor still can't solve your problems for
Yeah.
you. It really does lie on you. And so, just taking some of their teachings and taking what I've known through being an energy healer and being, having a very strong intuition, maybe a little bit of psychic mediumship, it was extremely excruciatingly painful, but also I learned so much from it. And obviously, everybody says this once they're on the other side, right? I would never change a single thing that happened. I would not
Mm.
change the 208 rejections. I mean, I would never change the maybe 100 more I had to do after that. I mean, failing literally daily, watching, I think I had almost 40 grand saved and I burned through all of that. I needed Lou's help. There was times where we were scared about where money would come from, but
Mm.
I knew, and also he knew, that I just had to keep going because, I mean, truly, not only are those challenges indirect response to your dream, like you raise your hand and you say, I want to be this
Yeah.
creator, the universe is like, yes, you can have that, you can be all of those things, but the person that you are today is not the person that you see at the finish line. So those challenges and struggles and obstacles are not meant to disempower you or to make you feel small or discouraged. Those challenges are a direct response to your dream. They're actually validation that your dream is happening. And and they are handcrafting you. They are literally handcrafting you to be the person that you see at the finish line. And so once I understood that challenges were not meant to punish me, when I understood that challenges are like when you say, why is this happening to me? And you say, I am built for this.
Mm.
What is the lesson in this? What is this showing me? Oops, sorry, something dropped over there. It scared me.
Okay.
Um, but what is this showing me? Um, it it gives you a sense that you have more control over your destiny and it doesn't destroy you.
Mm.
It actually empowers you and you feel mentally and emotionally stronger because of it.
That's amazing, by the way. I love that summary and your way of reframing those difficult moments in terms of how the way to approach and to engage those difficult moments. I think that term you said, I'm built for this, which I think is a beautiful term to use. So when you were going through those moments, I want to get into the program in a sec, but I'm just keen to delve a little bit deeper into this, particularly for people that are watching or listening, that they might be going through at the moment where they're working on something really, really tough. They may have what you alluded to at the start. You've got family and friends don't quite get it, you spend a lot of time on this, but you're going through this process and you're probably not getting that immediate gratification that everybody wants, but invariably immediate gratification is not the is not up for grabs. It will come at a later date. So in terms of your process where you worked out this lovely way of reframing, was that with the help of mentors? Did you come up with that yourself, or was it a combination of everything? The way that you're able to be resilient and move through that. And just lastly, congratulations on getting 208 calls, because not everybody can actually generate 208 leads. We're able to have those conversations. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. And thank you for recognizing that. Thank you. That's an abundance mindset right
Yeah,
there.
it's like,
That's awesome.
because there would be people thinking, how does she get 208 calls? Because you've got to find people,
Mhm.
you've got to persuade them that they've got to give up some of their time to have a conversation with you. And people's time is very precious these days, and people are very guarded about giving up time. So to actually get 208 people on a call, that's pretty impressive to me.
Thank you. Thank you. I worked with a specific group of people. Their name is Clients on Demand,
Mm,
and they helped me build a funnel where I got 208 of those
okay.
calls. So if somebody wants to look into that, Clients on Demand, I
Yeah.
would recommend them.
Okay,
They're
cool.
great. Um, but yeah, thank you for recognizing and honoring that.
Oh, 100%. So, so that was wonderful. So you managed to get the 208. So in terms of that, because to keep on going, it takes a certain person, a certain character with certain characteristics to navigate through those setbacks. Were you able, when you, I guess naturally we're all going to be disappointed because we all want the best outcome. So were you able to maybe take any learnings from any of those situations which you're able to use as you navigated your journey?
Hmm. So everything everything that pops up into my reality, whether it be a challenge or a gift, I always ask, what is this showing me about myself? Because I don't know what your audience believes in, but we all believe in a higher power. We all believe to some degree that we're co-creating with something. And so if you understand, really understand, not just talk about it, not just intellectually get it, but when you fully integrate and understand that the external world around you is a mirror of your internal world, and your internal world could be your greatest asset or it could be your greatest limitation. When something pops up into my life, I ask, what is this showing me about myself? Because I am the only one in control about what happens to me, what I bring in, what I receive,
Okay,
or what I don't receive,
okay.
right?
So when you do that, that's powerful, by the way. That's powerful, having that
Thank you.
ability to do that. So when you do that, are you is that like a conversation you're having internally, or do you write when you're going through a process? Do you write it down? How are you able to process that and then maybe take the right cues that are right for you?
Right, right. So number one, the first thing I want to say about this is that when you're asking yourself these questions, because it's a mirror of reflection of you, the most important thing that you can do is make sure that you're compassionate with yourself. Because we are so easy to judge, slap ourselves on the hand, call ourselves names, say that there's something wrong with you, right? You're not doing something right. When we do the inner work, when we do that growth, we want to come from a place of pure observation. You're collecting data, you get curious, you're like, oh, I think that's interesting. Why do I think that? Don't make it wrong that you think and feel a certain way, because when you make it wrong, you cannot move that past it. Acceptance in all shapes, ways, and forms. Acceptance is the foundation to all healing. If you could just accept that you feel defeated, if you could just accept that you feel like you want to give up, if you could just accept that you don't feel 100% right now and make that okay, Then you can collect data on the thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs, behaviors, and patterns that are keeping that cycle alive. And then once you can identify it and locate it, then you can strategically move past it. So I really like writing things down. I've
Mm.
never been a journaler. I've never been a Dear Diary
Yeah.
person, right? Because I don't necessarily think that there is a part of it that's cathartic where you can write it out and get it off your chest. And I absolutely have done that before. But I have the mind where, like, I want to get it done. I want to know what it is and I want to get it done now. And I want to move past this. I really believe in efficiency, really believe in efficiency. So I write down and I ask myself questions almost like I'm having a conversation with my higher self. My higher self is asking me questions. Like I'll ask a question and then I'll answer it. And then based on my answer, I'll ask myself another intelligent question. And it's like this series of questions with the end in mind and being able to dig deep to find the root belief that would actually be holding me back.
Mm.
But there are times where it's like it's done in a meditation. And also sometimes it's not done in just one sitting. It's not done in
Okay.
one sitting.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to revisit it. And I'm telling
Mm.
you, there's things that I am still revisiting to this day because of the deprogramming processes that I'm currently, trying to overcome to
Yeah.
move up and scale to the next level.
Yeah. Do you ever get to the point where you find it where you have different emotions when you're going through the, I guess, the channeling and the reframing process? So the word I was going to use, do you ever find it, I guess it depends on what the situation is, but do you ever find it quite exciting actually that I'm going to, there's something that's come up and I want to work on it. I feel like I need to work on it. So do you ever have those eventuality, or is it generally something that is quite, can't think of the right word, maybe a challenge. I can't think of the best word,
Yeah,
but
like daunting
yeah.
almost. So I have both. I
Okay.
have both because even though it hurts and it's uncomfortable, I know that when I overcome it, there is a reward on the other side that is beyond my wildest dreams. There's always a reward on the other
Okay.
side. Always. So sometimes I do get excited. And then when it's something that I've worked on already before, I'm like, why am I addressing this again? But then where am I going? Right? Automatically into judgment, into a lack of
Mm.
acceptance. This should be done already, right? It's an unconscious thing, but we just catch ourselves amidst it, and be like, oh, I was running that pattern again. Let's move beyond that.
Okay.
But so it
Okay.
is both. It's like I do get excited when I find the higher meaning. So I would love to give your audience these three questions that I always ask
Yeah.
myself when challenges are coming about. So, and these came from my mentors at Clients on Demand. So the first one is, what am I making this mean? So whatever this challenge is, whatever this struggle is, what am I making this mean? Because automatically when something happens to us, we automatically create a meaning or a definition or a story around that. Like, let's say a client didn't show up for your podcast. Automatically, you're going to make that mean something, whether it's
Mm.
empowering or disempowering, that's up to you, right? But automatically it means something. So first you must identify the story that you're already telling yourself that is not necessarily highest truth. It's an automatic programmed response, right? The second question I ask myself is, what could this mean instead? So by asking myself, what could this mean instead? I am first of all, I'm reframing, but second of all, I am finding the true higher purpose and cause for this, whether it
Mm.
be, creators handcrafting me to be the spiritual leader and mentor I'm supposed to be. This is happening for my highest good in these specific ways. And then the last question I ask myself is, how is this getting me closer to my goal? Right? So if you think about the $40,000 that I spent trying to get the business up and running, and then having to temporarily depend on Lou's help for everything, how is that getting me closer to my goal, right? You're like, oh my God, why didn't you just stop? It was
Mm.
getting me closer to my goal ultimately because I am generating wealth. I will continue to get wealthy. And so, in order for me to know what financial limitations I had to go under that deep, immense loss, scary loss of money in order to know what was, like I said, what was holding me back. So, that in itself, even though it was awful, it still got me closer to my goal because now I have a healthier relationship, understanding, and companionship with money. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
yeah, that's brilliant. Love those questions. I will be writing those questions down, not
Yeah, they're
myself. And also, like again, the fact that you had £40,000 and meant that you could go as long as you did. So it gave you the opportunity to push the business and get the business to a point. If you didn't have that, then it might have been difficult for you to kind of get to where you got to. So I love the idea of using those questions. I'm sure you've got others as well where we can reframe. And to me, it almost feels that to your example is a wonderful one. So if somebody doesn't a podcast and guests busy, sometimes guests aren't here, they don't arrive, and there's always a reason for that. But I do question that sometimes, and I do, and it's not, and I realise when I'm doing it, why have I got a negative connotation about what might have happened? Is it helping me? It doesn't. But I don't have the obviously I'm not an expert like you. They're just a thought that I have, and then I will, and then eventually we will circle back, and it will be put back in to the schedule. And sometimes I've done things where I may have got confused with somebody I'm interviewing or something. So well, I'm gonna get into the program in 1 second, but I just wanted to think about a lot of the tools and the ideas that you've referenced so far. It almost feels to me like you're giving us tools and ideas about how we can remove potential blockages, which if we don't use some of these tools and techniques, we're going to have these blockages where if we adopt these techniques, we can actually use them or remove them.
So, in relation to tools and techniques, because there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, out there. And so I always say this to my clients because every strategy works to some capacity. Every tool works to some capacity, but it's really not about the tool. It's not about the strategy. It's not even about what we're doing. It's about who we're being while we are doing it. So, just to give you an example, let's say, rewind about a year and a half ago when I was overcoming those limiting money beliefs. If I was sitting there trying to figure it out and sitting there with my notebook and doing all of the belief work, who am I being in that moment? I'm being in a state of force. I'm being in a state of, I have to get it done. I'm in a state of scarcity and fear. And so even though the tools that I was using were effective because of the energy that I was coming in with, because also
Mm,
you can't think beyond what you feel. Dr. Joe Dispenza says that, like literally your nervous system is not open to receiving information that is
yeah.
beyond what you feel. So if I'm sitting there trying to do my belief work or my belief stacks, and I'm coming from a place of force, anger, frustration, in self-pity, what am I ultimately vibrating? All of those things, which is creating and generating more of that in the universe. I'm going to create more of that in my life. So it gets to a point where there's a point of surrender, right? And surrender is different from giving up, but it gets to a point where you just have to focus on who you're being, and your emotions are a great indicator of who you're being. So, also another example, if you know that you have to get editing done, for example, you're going in there and you're like, you have to edit. It's 2 o'clock in the morning and you have to edit, who are you being at that time? Maybe you're a little bit resentful, maybe you're a little bit exhausted. And so you're not going to get the same quality of video and audio
Mm,
content as if you were like I'll leave it for the morning. I can always wake up early. I can always find time tomorrow. And I'm not saying delay your dreams till tomorrow, because that's a whole nother conversation. What I am trying to say is that it's not so much about the strategy and the tool that you're using. It's about the intent and the energy that you are bringing behind it,
Okay.
because the energy that you're bringing behind it will have say so or influence over the result that you get.
Okay, that's very interesting. And I like the intent bit, which is clearly very important. So to be to be intentional. So title of this podcast is Transform Your Life with Human Consciousness. So is there some alignment there with intent and human consciousness?
Intention is everything. Intention is connected to our consciousness, whether we are conscious of it or not. Intention is the one thing that you can do that would make everything you do more powerful. Okay. And here's why. Most of the time, we are just operating off of to-do lists. Most of the time, we're just operating like we need to get the stuff done.
Mhm.
Now, if you set an intention for that, so let's take an example like washing the dishes or putting them in the dishwasher. If you're on automatic pilot, you're probably not going to have fun. You're probably not going to enjoy it. And so that's just going to be another sterile thing in your life. But if you can find a way to make the dishes fun, like maybe putting on your favorite song by listening to your favorite podcast, such as My Perfect
Yes,
Failure,
yes. It's double thumbs
then
up.
that's what makes the experience more beneficial. So before I have a conversation with anybody, even before you and I had a conversation today, again, and everybody can use this, anybody can use this. I always ask myself three different questions, right? What is my intention for what I'm about to do? What is it that, and it will show up in your reality. It will happen.
Yeah.
What is my intention for what I'm about to do? How do I want to feel when it's
Mm.
over? How do I want them to feel when it's over? But setting an intention is more than just having that conversation, because even still, you're just checking boxes off of a list.
Mm.
It's so important that you feel it in your heart. What does it feel like when you feel successful at the end of a podcast? What does it feel like to know that you connected with the guest and your audience can feel that? What does it feel like that this specific podcast is going to get the most amount of views, and you feel that? And you feel your intention. And then that is how you operate or command the space in whatever situation you're in. I do that with all of my clients before every podcast, before everything. I do that, and it works really well. Those
Yeah,
three questions work really well before a heavy conversation, like a where there could be a chance of
yeah,
conflict.
yeah, yeah, totally. And because I think I'm just thinking about me, I'm thinking about life. Sometimes, I guess on a lot of occasions, we have moments, things we've got to do. I guess it can be a podcast, it can be anything, and it's sometimes we do things on autopilot, and so having that clarity of intention, what do I want to offer, what do I want the outcome to be, and really have that element of clarity and focus. I guess the best word is intention as you used. That I think I'm going to speak for the masses here. Yeah, for the masses. But I think for a lot of us, we go through the motions a little bit. I think we don't have that clarity. So we don't have maybe the experience that we would like or we think's available. And maybe we don't have the outcomes that we want. And I guess you get that compound effect where that becomes, I guess, the status quo in terms of how we engage. It could be a meeting at work, it could be a podcast, it could be anything. So that is what you've described there, wonderful things that we all can use.
Yeah, and the reason why I know to do that is because I've gone so long without doing that, right?
Yeah,
I've been on autopilot. I've done things just because I have to do them. I've done things just because I was in a space of force or scarcity or
mm,
fear. So that's why I can speak to you so eloquently and clearly and concisely about it, because I know what it feels like to be doing both things where I'm on autopilot, things aren't fulfilling. I have to make dinner, I have to take my kids to
Yeah.
bed, put my kids to bed, rather than, how can I make this moment meaningful to my kids so that they feel heard, seen, and loved?
Mm.
How can I put excitement into dinner? Oh, maybe I add this spice, or maybe, ooh, I try it this different way. Another way to start stimulating new neurosynaptic connections, which that's Dr. Joe Dispenza is the one to go to that can really explain this to you, but everything that all of our automatic programs are connected through through the neurons in our brain, right? Those neurosynaptic connections. So in order to generate a little bit of change in your life without having to make a massive change if you're not ready for it yet, is just doing small things very differently, because our brain is constantly trying to conserve energy. And so that's why when we do new things, it's a little bit exhausting or overwhelming or uncertain. Number one, because you're stepping out of the subconscious mind framework, which is a whole nother conversation. But also, you're using your brain's energy. And for survival, we need that energy use to be down, right? So once you start to develop a habit, it's going to require effort, it's going to require
Yeah.
consistency, but eventually your brain will adapt and it's not going to require energy to move past it, or it's not going to require more energy to do it. So if you start off by maybe just adding a different spice to your pork, if you start
Yeah.
off adding a different vegetable to your plate, or you start off doing brushing your hair with the opposite hand, automatically you're going to more effortlessly generate the opportunity for obviously new neurosynaptic connections, but also you're breaking the automatic pilot system and you will be more
Mm.
present.
So just around sticking with this subject, and then we definitely are going to your 5 step alignment program. But so we set the intention. We're going to do whatever the task might be. It could be dinner, it could be something else. And within that process or that task, we experience a challenging moment. Something happens that maybe wasn't part of dream scenario that we had, I guess, hoped for at the start. Do we use the intention as the thing to center us so we don't view that as a total disaster? If that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. That's when I would go to those first three
Okay.
questions. What am I making this mean? What could this mean instead? How is this getting me closer to my goal? And I want everyone to know it's not going to feel natural
Mm,
to answer those questions right away.
yeah.
Because when you say, what am I making this mean? You'll tell the story, and then you'll say, what am I making this mean instead? And it'll be the same story of the first one that you just
Yeah.
told. But you have to dig deep and find the higher meaning to it. It's like,
Mm,
how could this be getting me closer to my goal? And what if it's just something as simple as it's giving me an opportunity to find center? What if it's as simple as it's giving me an opportunity to build a resilient mindset? What if it's this is the universe like knocking on your head saying, hello, it's time to wake up. Hello, it's time to get out of your head. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like if you're making eggs and an egg falls on the floor, instead of getting all upset about it, be like, what is this showing me about the state of mind that I'm in? Because the state of mind that you're in is going to affect everything throughout the rest of the day. So whether it's for your business, whether it is for work, whether it is a conversation with your spouse, with your kids, with your friends, that state of mind is going to bleed through everything. So that egg dropping on the floor, while it's a pain to clean up, it's actually a gift because, like, think about it. We don't know. Our triggers are not necessarily a bad thing, right? Our anger, our frustration, even rage, I don't believe are bad emotions. I don't believe there are any bad emotions. Those emotions are sending you a message of places where you are not free. And so in order for us to know what we must move past, in order for us to know where to transcend and what to heal, we must first be triggered. We must first know
Okay.
what's wrong, what's incongruent.
Okay.
And so actually those things are a gift.
Mm. Yeah, I'd never thought of it like that before. So and it does make sense the way that you explain it. And for people watching, listening that maybe want to maybe practice, they might want to practice now or today about maybe using some of the steps that you've outlined. Should they keep it to themselves? So if there's somebody watching now that's going to think maybe I'm going to make dinner tonight, and maybe I'm going to try and add something and be more intentional. Do you recommend that they can just do it without broadcasting it, or what's
Yes,
your advice on that?
absolutely. Absolutely. So I think the only thing that we owe anybody is mutual respect and unconditional love, right? I don't think we owe an explanation to anybody, even
Yeah,
our spouse, right? But if we're going on a lighter level of that topic, um, I believe that if it's somebody that you know it's safe to share it with them. If you
mm,
know they're not gonna cut it down, if you know they're not gonna question you or start calling you crazy because you want to use cayenne pepper rather than paprika or whatever
mm,
have you, right? Like you have to use your discernment. In spirituality and even personal development, there are so many little nuances because not every circumstance is the same, not each individual is the same, and not each individual in same circumstance is the same, right? So there's so many little nuances, there's so much gray area. But ultimately, if we're speaking in generalities, if that person you know is automatically supporting, if that person you know is going to empower you and be like, try the cayenne pepper,
yeah,
go ahead, then it's safe to do that.
mm,
But if you know they're going to cut you down, give it a go without them knowing. And even still, they might be like, what did you do to the meat? But it doesn't even matter if you used the right seasoning or not. It's about the fact that you stepped outside of your automatic
mm,
programs. And that is the ripple effect that makes change. I don't care if the meat or the pork turned out horrible. It's not about the result of the pork or the meat or the whatever have you, this anomaly that we're talking about, right? It is about the fact that you stepped out and did something different, and that automatically is going to start creating a different life.
okay, okay, lovely, lovely. So I've mentioned this a few times, well, more than a few times. 5 steps to alignment program. I'm going to understand what's involved in this and how are you working with your clients, and I guess giving them a new perspective and a new opportunity. So yeah, so I'll give the floor to you.
The 5 steps to alignment is solely meant to help facilitate you in your soul's purpose. It is solely meant to facilitate you in your soul's purpose. So there are 5 certain key areas, yes, but it's like a 10-week overhaul of you, your limiting beliefs, of your passions, and of your ability to manifest, and also healing the parts of yourself that are holding you back from living in your highest purpose or keeping you in fear or in stagnation with your highest purpose, right? So the whole idea of 5 steps to alignment, actually the program of that is called Navigating Your Spiritual Journey. It's all about navigating your spiritual journey. And I give you an abundance of tools. You get to work with me one to one. You also get to be a part of a community and do live Q&As and motivational workshops and things like that. But the sole intent, SOLE and SOUL intent was to help free people, free high vibrational beings with a purpose on their heart, help free them of their circumstantial, mental, and emotional limitations, and giving them all of the tools that are required for them to live their soul's mission and purpose with the most amount of self-belief, self-empowerment, and giving them lifelong skills that they can use forever And not even just necessarily tools and strategies, because like I said earlier, while those do matter and those do help, it's not
Yeah.
about tools or strategies, it's about who you're being. So just really helping them with that.
Yeah, it must be amazing for you when you're working with clients and you see them have that clarity. They really work out who they are, what's important to them. And to your point earlier, to live life where we're living life intentionally with clarity. We know what we're doing, we know what we're here for. Because I do think that going back to what I said earlier, that I definitely feel that there is a lot of us that things are fairly robotic in what we do. We get up, we go to work, and it might be that some people that is their intent, and that's what they're doing. But I definitely feel that there's a lot that probably would think, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that I am living intentional. I do feel that there's an element of me just doing it as a function.
Yeah. So for anybody listening, including you, the autopilot programs, I want you to know it's not your fault. I want you to know it's not your fault. We have been conditioned through society, through schooling, even through our parents who probably were on autopilot. Because really, a lot of the things that we have and do and be are caught. They're not taught. We
Yeah,
learn more by observing. So you're just adhering, and there's a whole nother spiral, there's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down with psychology and energy and behavior and things like that, and subconscious mind and all of that. But ultimately, I want you to know it's not your fault that you operate on autopilot, but now that you know, you are presented with a choice, and
yeah,
that choice is up to you.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And human consciousness, what does that mean to you?
So consciousness is really ultimately what we are. We are a
Hmm.
consciousness in human form. We are a consciousness that has embodied in a human form and is having this human experience. So consciousness to me is just the pure essence of existence. And I mean, really, that's the best way that I would describe it. It's just the pure essence of existence. And we're all
Yeah,
part of a collective consciousness. We're all part of one consciousness, which is why when we hurt people or we lie to people, we feel it ourselves. Maybe it's
okay.
in shame or blame or whatever have you. But, and also in the lighter aspect on the other side of the coin, when we give love or we give a gift or we give admiration, we feel that too,
Hmm.
right? We're part of a collective conscious ecosystem. And so wherever the balance is higher, that's what humanity is majoritively going to feel and receive, because we're all connected. It's almost like an ant farm, right? Where they're all connected. They're all, even the roots in the trees, they're all connected, right? We are a fractal of a spirit, a fractal of a consciousness that is embodied as Paul, that is embodied as Haley, that is embodied as the listener. And we are experiencing not only human life, but the understanding of mastering energy, mastering free will, mastering our own consciousness, but also upgrading and healing on a soul level.
I guess I would imagine over a period of time, once we does does intentionality enhance the card? So I don't know. I probably can get a bit confused here, but does intentionality, when we've got that, enhance our level of consciousness in terms of how we engage consciousness or awareness? If that is a question.
Yes, absolutely. That's a brilliant question. That's a brilliant question. Yes, absolutely. Because if you think about it, if a car is sitting in the driveway, it's not getting used. Or so maybe there's a better example. Not one is coming to me right now, so I'll just use the car example for the sake of time. If the car, so if you're learning how to drive, right, and you're reading a book on how to drive and you're reading a book how to drive, but you never actually drive the car, you don't get more skilled. You don't
Yeah.
get more aware. And so the more that you engage with your intentions, the more that you observe yourself without judgment and without shame or blame, and the more that you get curious about why you think and feel the way that you do and make that okay, and then obviously it's your decision to move past that or not, you do get stronger in your ability to connect with your consciousness, connect with yourself, connect with the higher power that is, right? So absolutely, the
Okay.
more
Okay.
intentful you are, the more you amplify your state of being and your consciousness.
Fabulous. And so, what I didn't ask, which I should have asked, and I'm keen to ask for everybody that's saying, Paul, what you haven't asked about the program in terms of, so for people watching, listening, that want to know a little bit more about the 5 steps alignment program in terms of how they can do it, what does that look like? Can people contact you via your website? But what's the best way for people to engage and find out a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I have two options because so I have my Patreon, which is a $7 monthly subscription, and that is a group that is like spiritual group mentorship and coaching. So you get a monthly training, you get a monthly energy healing, and you get a monthly live Q&A where you have that taste of what it's
Okay.
like to have a coach, what it's like to have a mentor. Now, if you really just wanted the supreme overhaul, you can find both of this. You can contact me at my website, 5stepstoalignment.com. If you really wanted the overhaul, that would be the Navigating Your Spiritual Journey program. And you can book what it's a consultation call, but it's called a starlight call. You could book a starlight call with me. But yeah, you have the option to join Patreon. So that's spiritual mentorship and coaching literally for less than a Netflix subscription. And you can get a taste and see what it's like, see if it resonates, because I know I don't resonate with everybody, and that is okay. Or if you really wanted that specific overhaul, then book a free Starlight call, and I don't make an offer to everybody. I want to make sure that I understand your problems. I want to make sure that I understand your struggles and what you're going through. And I also want to know your dreams. And based on that, if I can help you, I will let you know what that looks like. But if not, then I'll just steer you to something that's better for you, you
Okay.
know?
Okay, amazing. So I will get the links from you. Possibly you've already sent me them. We'll put them on the show notes, so it's very easy for people to look at the Patreon and look at maybe something that is more tailored via a consultation call that works for them and suits them. So just, I guess we'll getting towards the end now. So do you have any, I mean, maybe a final thought or maybe a piece of advice for people that are really maybe looking to become more intentional? Or there, I think you've given us a whole raft of things that we can do, but I don't know if there's one thing that you think actually do this, get started.
It really just boils down to a decision. And it really boils down to this might sound pretty dire or dark or whatever have you, but truthfully, you're going to experience pain either way, and everything comes at a cost. Are you going to choose the pain
Mm,
of knowing that you could be better? Are you going to choose the pain of knowing that you're living as a fraction of who you could be? Or are you going to choose the pain and discomfort of making a different
mm,
choice, of following it through, of continuing to move forward, even though you'd rather not? You're going to be met with it either way. It's just which timeline do you want
yeah.
to choose? And if I may say one more thing, because your podcast is called My Perfect Failure, obviously we all know the concept of failing forward, right? We all know that you fail forward, but this is my belief about failure. My belief is that it is impossible to fail if you never give up. If you never give up what you want, success, love, happiness, that business, that money, that house, that car, whatever have you, if you never give up your dream, has no choice but to show up at your door, as no choice. You just have to outlast the temporary. You just have to be more mentally strong than the temporary. Even 20 years, I know that sounds like way out there, but even 20 years in an 80 or 100-year life is still temporary. Even 30 years, even 50
Yeah.
years, right? Temporary. And the more that you can hold yourself and nurture yourself and have compassion with yourself and love yourself through the challenges and struggles and the quote unquote failures, the quicker that dream arrives to you. And then I promise this is the last thing I'll say. I want to
No,
make
this
sure
is
that
all
your audience
like
gets
like
this.
this is all golden stuff. So please, you don't have to rush.
Here's what I always say to myself when I find myself worrying about my dream, doubting whatever it is that I'm trying to create in my life that I don't have yet, right? I always say to myself, if you knew that it was going to arrive in 60 days, or let's even make it a little scarier, right? Let's say that if you knew that you were going to get 1 million subscribers in the next 3 years, would you really be so stressed right now? Would you really be so
Mm.
stressed, be so hard on yourself, beating yourself up? If you knew it was coming in X amount of time, would you really be so hard on yourself? And I ask myself that quite often, you know?
Yeah,
So just when you think about it, if you never give up, it's impossible to fail. And if you knew it was coming to you in X amount of time, even if it's 5 years from now, would you really be stressing out so much
yeah.
and putting yourself through that unnecessary pain?
If it's as you'll say that, I'm thinking about thoughts. So our thoughts can really put us on the back foot because we let our thoughts dictate our emotions and how we feel without really challenging those. And the questions that you provided us enable us to maybe think differently and have more control over our thoughts because our thoughts always go to the negative, which is invariably not accurate and very unhelpful. So it's a lovely, I think your suggestions are lovely measures where we can actually have a bit of perspective about those thoughts that are just there to kind of almost trip us up and make us feel even worse than we need to feel.
Exactly. And that's why questions are so powerful.
Mm,
Because also we're asking ourselves questions anyway. Like, why is this happening again? Why does this
mm,
always happen to me? Why am I not where I want to be yet? Your brain will automatically go and find the answers to whatever question you ask, right?
yeah,
So when you ask
yeah,
those things, you're self-inflicting pain. It's an automatic program. Again, first have acceptance that you're doing it. It's okay. Now you get to make a different choice. What are better questions I can ask myself? How is this getting me closer to my goal? How far have I actually already come? Where was I a month ago that I
mm,
wasn't where I am today? I don't care if it's even one new subscriber
yeah,
on one media platform. Progress is
mm,
progress.
absolutely. I think progress is doing it's like doing something that we feel that is in alignment with what we want to do and even when we don't see those rewards, that's the mission, that's the purpose. And it's easy to do something when we get all the rewards, but that comes later. It's about the hard yards now where we are kind of grooving ourselves, we're getting better, we're learning, we're becoming more resilient. So I do have one question, if I may, which is the recurring question, which is if you could invite three inspirational people for dinner, who would you invite?
Yeah, so I have two. A third one didn't come to mind, but definitely the first person I would invite is Ed Milet. Ed
Yeah.
Milet has been an absolute inspiration in my journey. Ed Milet, without a doubt. Also, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. He channels Bashar. People might know Bashar, but his name is Daryl Anka. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I know it's Daryl, but I don't know if it's Anka or Anka.
Okay.
But the guy who channels Bashar, I would love to have him sitting at the table.
You never know. You never know. We'll put the intent out there and see what happens.
Of course.
We'll put the intent out there. You kind of never know. The world is a strange place. So the intent is out there. Hopefully at some point, because would you all be in the same country?
Yep.
Well, you never know. You never know. If
Yep.
they're passing through your state, then maybe that could happen. Haley, I've
Absolutely.
really enjoyed this. It's been really enlightening. I've learned so much, and I think everybody that's watching and listening equally has earned heaps and heaps and heaps. Hopefully, they're inspired and are going to start implementing some of this stuff now. And clearly, if they're keen to look at any of the programs that you've referred to, they can get in contact with you and they can really take charge of their lives and just really live with more intention. Who wouldn't want to engage that and do that? To me, that's a wonderful opportunity. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. And honestly, thank you so much for following your dream too. Because I know you've
Yeah,
experienced challenges. You've probably wanted to give up a few times.
oh,
And so thank
completely,
you.
completely. And it
Yeah.
was interesting when you were talking about editing. That's kind of a weekly thing for me. So the editing, the edit. So even tonight probably because I'm in the UK, a lot of people probably know, but people can gauge my accent. So it's in the evening now. So might start a little bit of editing, but I might not go to because I want to get a certain amount done. So I've got it leaves space for other stuff I want to do. So yeah, but thank you so much, and definitely this won't be our last conversation. So thank you so much.
I'd love to be back. Thank
Definitely, and anytime. And thank you everybody for tuning into this episode of My Perfect Failure. We're always looking to grow the show, so please do share this episode far and wide, particularly if you know people that you know would love to live their life being more intentional. This will be a perfect episode for them. If you're watching on YouTube, please do subscribe even, helps us grow the channel. And your feedback is most welcome. So we're keen to hear about the things you like and equally the things you don't like. So you can find me at paul@myperfectfailure.com or you can find me via the contact page on the website. So take care for now. Bye.
Thanks for listening to My Perfect Failure podcast. Be sure to visit www.myperfectfailure.com to join the conversation. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google Play. Look out for our next episode.